Blah 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 blah. Welcome to Magic the Chat. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Magic the Chattering. I'm your host Kel, and in today's video I've got a deck tech for you. We've got the Necrobloom, which is a new obsession of mine, built just after MagicCon Amsterdam. It's a really fun deck. The Necrobloom is 1 black and a green for a 2/7 plant with landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield in your control, create a 0/1 green plant. If you control 7 or more different lands, create a 2/2 zombie instead. And land cards in your graveyard have dredge, so very fair. So, without further ado, let's get into it. And I want to start with the lands, because this is a landfall deck after all. Let's talk about the lands. Arid Archway is a bounce land. We are a 3-colour deck, so sometimes this does get in the way, but it's really good value. Helps you just go through the game at a leisurely pace, ramp a little bit, get your big threats out earlier. It's a really fun deck to play, and this is a really fun card to have in the deck. Ash Barrens helps you fix sphere lands, because again, we are 3-colour. And we've got Broker's Hideout, Cabaretti Courtyard, Deceptive Landscape, Escape Tunnel, Evolving Wilds. They all will double landfall trigger. Gavany Township helps us grow our 0/1 plants or 2/2 zombies later on in the game. Godless Shrine, Croson Verge is a fetch land, which will give us another double landfall trigger. Myriad Landscape gives us 3. Nature and Peatland, we can sack it, dredge it back, draw some cards. Obscura Strawfront, more, and Riveteer's Outlook give us more ways to double landfall trigger in a turn. Shire Terrace the same. Vault the Archangels, really good card in Commander, I think. Really underrated. Given everything Death Touch and Lifelink, it can get you back into a game that you may have taken a lot of damage in. And then we've got our basic lands. We've got forests, plains, snow-covered swamps, and swamps. In an ideal world, I'd have a couple of snow-covered forests and a couple of snow-covered plains as well. I just didn't have them on hand when I built the deck, but that is something I am looking to do, because that helps us with our 7 or more different lands with different names, so we can get zombies. But to be honest, most of the time, we want the plant more than we do the zombie, because there's a lot more ways of abusing a 1-power creature, or 1 toughness creature rather, than there is a 2/2 creature. But obviously late in the game, you do want to finish the game off, so having that option of having 2/2 zombies instead is always nice. So let's move on to the artifacts. Starting off with Arcane Signet for a bit of ramp. Ashnod's Altar, because we make a lot of tokens and we need a way to cash them in. In an ideal world, maybe this is a Phyrexian Altar for the coloured mana. I think double colourless can be a little bit awkward sometimes. Conduit of Worlds, we're going to self-mill a lot in this deck. And Conduit of Worlds is one of many ways we can play things from our graveyard. Expedition Map to help us get a Gavany Township or Vault of the Archangel, whatever we need at the time. And Love Oblivion is going to help us draw some cards. Skull Clamp to really take care of those 0/1 plants that we're making. Draw us extra cards. Really, really good card in this deck. And of course, Sol Ring. On to the sorceries. Now for sorceries, we've got some Ramping Cultivate, and Tutor and Demonic Tutor, and Diabolic Tutor. Dread Return for a bit of recursion. This one particularly good because we do make a lot of 0/1 plants and 2/2 zombies, so the flashback cost of sacrificing 3 creatures is pretty easy to hit. Exsanguinate as just a win con. We can make a lot of mana. And this is a good place to dump all that mana. Farseek for a bit of ramp, Night's Whisper for a bit of card draw, Rampant Growth for a bit of ramp, Shamanic Revelation for a lot of card draw at once. Starfall Invocation is a good way for us to blow up the board and still keep either the Necrobloom or another big threat on the table. Burial Rite, more recursion, and Evading Confluence. Up next, we've got our instants. Starting with Deadly Dispute, another way we can sacrifice our 0/1s for value. Deadly Relic for removal. Grisly Salvage is a good way of getting things in our graveyard to start that dredge train. Harrow, more ramp. Path to Exile, a bit more removal. Peerless Recycling, another way of getting things back from our graveyard. Roiling Regrowth, more ramp. Smuggler's Surprise is just a really useful, versatile card in this deck. It can be protection, or we can dump some things into our graveyard and start that dredge train. Village Rate is another way of cashing in those 0/1 plants. Onto the enchantments. We've got Black Market, a card that can really do some work across a long game. Black Market Connections is a just catch-all. It's just really useful. Draws your cards, gets you mana, makes you bodies. You just got to be careful of that life cost. Crawling Infestation is a card that has really overperformed in every game I've played it in. It's one of those cards that really goes under the radar. People don't tend to remove it. It is super, super useful. And in this deck especially, where we're dredging a lot of creatures into the graveyard from the dredge ability of our lands, we can really get some value out of this. Darksteel Mutation for a bit more removal. Ghostly Prison is just... This is not the quickest deck in the world, and this is a good way of preventing people from taking us out early. Insidious Roots is really good in this deck. We make as I've said before, we make a lot of creatures, a lot of creature tokens, and this is a really, really useful way of turning those creature tokens into mana. Inspiring Leader is... It's a card that is in the deck to give us another way of winning, because sometimes you just need to smack someone in the face. Mirari's Wake to double our mana, make our creatures a little bigger. Really useful card. Not so great when you've got a Skull Clamp in play. Overgrown Estate is a good way of keeping us alive and recycling our lands. This could be a Zuran Orb, but I like the art. And Strength of the Harvest as a... First of all, really useful in those board states where you just need to kill someone and you just don't have the power. If you've got a load of creatures, you can pop this on the Necrobloom or on one of the plants or a zombie and hit face. But it's also a differently named land on the back half for Necrobloom. So finally onto our creature suite. Now the creature suite is the biggest, 25 creatures in this deck. I'll go through all the stats at the end, but this is the biggest suite of things we have. Starting off with Ancient Brass Dragon. We dump a lot of creatures in our graveyard. If we can connect with this, we can bring a lot of creatures back. Absence Pilgrim for some ramp. Even Interrupter is a card that I have really taken to from Outlaws of Thunder Junction. People just don't expect it, and it catches people off guard. It can save you. It can save your life multiple times in a game, especially if you've got ways of blinking it. We don't in this deck, but honestly, if you haven't had the pleasure of playing with even Interrupter, give it a crack. Avenger of Zendikar is one of our big threats, our big endgame threats. It's a lot of fun. Blood Artist is, again, we make a lot of creatures and they are likely to die, and this is a way of cashing in. Lotho, whenever a player casts a second spell each turn, you lose a life, creates a treasure. Just super useful. Mirkwood Bats, whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses 1 life. Oracle of Moldire, more ramp, more utility. Osteomancer Adept is a card that I have only recently put in. I haven't had much of a chance to play with it, but the forage cost to get things back from your graveyard doesn't feel like a big cost in a deck where you are milling so many cards. Perennial Behemoth is another way of playing lands from our graveyard. Rampaging Baylot, another landfall payoff. Ramanam Excavator, similar to Perennial Behemoth, but I like to have redundancy. Rumbleweed is another way of growing our board, and often this will just cost 1 mana because we do mill so many cards. Sakura Tribe Elder, we all know what Steve does, and here he is just really useful at getting a land. Scoot Swarm is super useful. It is another way we can generate bugs, essentially. But Scoot Swarm is one of those cards that, if left unchecked, will just take over a game. Spring Gloom Druid helps us sack lands, get lands into play. It's really useful. Sun Titan helps us recur things from our graveyard. Sylvan Safekeeper can help us. It's a sacrifice outlet for our lands, but most importantly, it's a way of protecting our creatures. So Comrade, again, we mill a lot of cards in this deck. So Comrade will do some serious damage. Tato Farmer is a real overperformer in this deck. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, you get 2 rad counters, and you can tap it to put a land from your graveyard that was milled this turn onto the battlefield under your control tapped. In this deck, this usually will put 1 land a turn in, and the rad counters that you get don't really affect you. You want to be milling cards anyway. Really good card. Very cheap as well. Gitrog Monster. What can I say about the Gitrog Monster? It is super useful. A real engine piece in this deck. Titania, another way we can get things back from our graveyard. Whenever we sack something, we can get a bunch of 5/3s. Really useful with Sylvan. Really useful with Sylvan Safekeeper or Overgrown Estate. Sack a bunch of lands, make a bunch of 5/3s. We can win the game that way. Viscera, way of cashing in our 0/1 plants and making sure nothing gets taken from us. Warren War Leader is another one I haven't really had a chance to play with yet. I popped it in here to see if it would help with the attacking side, just pumping up our plants. And White of the Reliquary, another overperformer in this deck. Sack a 0/1 plant to get a land, get another plant. It's just really useful in this deck. So that is the deck, the Necrobloom. All in all, we've got 25 creatures, 12 sorceries, 9 instants, 7 artifacts, 10 enchantments, and 36 lands. I will link the deck list down below. If you are interested, I would suggest playing this deck. It is a lot of fun, and I think it is one of the... It's easy mode Magic in a way. And you know, it's one of these commanders that kind of hold your hand, but sometimes you just want to play lands and profit, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Not having blue, I think, is a real upside. I think if this was, say, white, blue, and green, it'd be a completely different deck, and I think you'd lose all the recursion, and it just wouldn't be quite the same. I think it's a really fun deck to play, and I think if you optimised it, it could be really, really powerful. I have intentionally not optimised it as well as I could have. I've still got a lot of powerful cards in there, and it still performs really well. And that is it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you found yourself wanting any of the cards we've spoken about today, please head on down to the description. There is an affiliate link for Magic Madhouse here in the UK. At no cost to yourself, you can use that link and it'll help the channel out immensely, as will hitting that subscribe button. That also helps out the channel immensely, and it's completely free. If you find yourself wanting to see more of me and what I do, I am at @the_chattering on Instagram and at @the_chattering on X. Thank you all for watching, and goodbye.